Hey everyone, I'm Clayfect, and I had an idea. I remembered the first time I started out with polymer clay, I felt like I had no clue on what to do or how to do it, even though I have watched countless of clay videos on YouTube. There wasn't anything to show how to simply start out and learn some basic techniques. It would all be in these big and voluminous figures that I have no chance of making. I want to remedy that because I think it's a shame that this art is not explored more. And then I thought to myself, why not make a base figure that you then can slowly build up to the character that you actually want? A fantasy creature where there's no expectation on how good it should be or how it should look. And that is how the idea of the Tutootsies came into play. I'm going to post a video every third day for 8 videos now, and there's going to be a bonus video where Clayfect shows us how to paint. Well, a quick disclaimer before we get started though. I am not a master artist at all. I have only sculpted for 3 years, but I think I have picked up a thing here and there. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's start out with what you're going to need to make a Tutootsie. And the most important thing is clay. Then we need some liquid Sculpting, some clay tools, some sharp pointy things, some wire, and also some silver paper or aluminum foil or aluminium foil, depending on your preference and what you want to call it. Now I do have an affiliate link down below where you can click and buy all these things you're going to need, and I will get a little percentage off it. Simply to buy more clay, guys. So without further ado, let's start with the base. So let's start with the Armature, the inside of the Tutootsie. And for that we're going to need some aluminium foil and some wire. And a chip chopper for the wire. The reason that we are not just making it out of completely clay, there's actually a bulk of reasons. One is that it would be very expensive. 2, it would be too soft to actually get some details down and work on it. And 3, it would be very difficult to bake it completely through in the oven. So that is why we make this aluminium potato pawn dude, where we shape it sort of as a potato and then press it in sort of to give it a neckline already now, before we get any clay on it. Now with our metal potato pretty much done, all we need is to make sure that it can have some limbs. Now to make limbs you have to use some wire if the limbs is going to go outwards and it's going to hold its position. If it's going to be very close to the body, then you don't need it, then you just press the clay on and you're good. But we want our Tutsies to have all sort of different body language and expressions. And we also are only doing arms here. So what you do is you take some wire and you whip it around our potato pawn lump, and that is pretty much it. Then you have arms. So with the Armature done, all we need now is some clay that we're going to cut, and you can use any kind of knife to cut it. I'm just using a clay cutter because I think I'm fancy. Now what kind of polymer clay you're using is pretty much up to you and your preference. I prefer a softer type of polymer clay. That is why I go with Super Sculpty. Not to be mistaken with Sculpty Original, because that's a whole different thing and that's just, in my opinion. No, I prefer my Super Sculpty. But with the clay cut, it is time to condition it. And we are going to need it. The good, fast and easy way is by far by using a pasta maker. But if that isn't in your budget, then you can use any type of roll. Though I will admit, any other type of roll than what I'm doing here is preferable, is horrible. I have to admit that. But then again, it's a wooden wool that had been in the dishwater like 7 times. So it's no wonder that it's sort of struggling. But the baseline is you need to knead the clay to make it more flexible and more manageable and soft. You can do that by rolling it out, by pressing it with your fingers, smashing it. There's a lot of ways to make this clay softer. But again, I will stress out, if you have a pasta maker or have the money to buy a cheap one, then it is definitely preferable for anything else. But I made this tutorial so everybody that has about $50 can start on polymer clay. So that is why we're going in with the cake roll. Now with the clay more soft, we should get a pretty thin piece of clay. Not cheating using the pasta maker at all. It's on the thickest setting, by the way. But with that, all we need to do is put some clay on it. And it will look horrible in the start. You will think like, oh my god, how am I going to make this into a sculpture whatsoever? But remember, opposite to a wood cutter or a stone cutter, we are actually building the sculpture up, not revealing it in the medium, so to speak. So we just have to keep going, and at some point it's going to look great, I promise ya. The trick is to always check the dimensions, check if it's even, and keep smoothing until you get there. Just like I did here. Then it's time to give our little Tutsie baits some eyes. You can pretty much go on any shape you want. I decided on an egg shape to make it more cartoony that I shape out before I cut it up to make sure they are somewhat the same size. And with our eyes finally divided, all we have to do is reshape them a bit again to make this egg shape, and then it's time for the bake. Pre-baking the eyes will make it so much easier down the line. So we do as the package tells us to do and bake them for 15 minutes on 130 degrees Celsius. That is 275 in Fahrenheit. Now with the ice baking, let's make a set of buns, Tutootsie, so to speak. And we do that by rolling up a ball of clay before we cut it to size. Same procedure as with the eyes. Only with these round balls we are placing at the behind, placing them before we start smoothing them in. Like so. We are smoothing everything except for the inner crack of the buns, because that's going to be a Tutsie crack. We are going to define that a bit more by taking a rubber shaper tool that's slightly curved and press it into the crack and simply defining it some more. Now with the Tutsie done, all we have to do now is taking the eyes that we have just baked and press them into the skull, so to speak. And that is pretty much it for the Tutootsie base. This is the base we're going to base all the characters on. If you're feeling up to it, please consider like, comment and subscribe. It really means a lot to me and this channel. And click on all notifications while you're there, so you can follow along when we actually make these Tutootsies, teaching you the basic in how to make some simple techniques, expression, body language, the works. Though for now, it's time for me to sign off. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you will enjoy the Tutootsies, and I hope to see you next time when we make little Lovey. But until then, bye!